Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting back in Washington, D.C. after last week in Hamburg, Germany. We have a very full program for you today. World history moving fast and time to take action. Generally speaking, we're going to divide the program into the first hour on U.S. domestic, that is the rebirth of class struggle, the union mobilization. American labor, after 42 years of rout, is now gathering its forces, in particular against a generation of tin-pot fascist governors typified by Scott Walker of Wisconsin, who has gone way too far. The second hour, we're going to be dealing with the attempted CIA coup in Libya, which has run into significant barriers, as seems to be breaking down, and the threat of Obama's Bay of Pigs, that is to say, in an attempt to save this botched CIA coup, that Obama would now take military action. And it looks like if he does, he's going to be mighty lonely. There are some key NATO countries that I don't believe will go along with this. Obama the warmonger. He ran as a warmonger. It's not a surprise. You were warned right here through this microphone. The other thing today, of course, the 150th anniversary of the inauguration of Abraham Lincoln, a solemn occasion to think about the greatest man of the 19th century, by far, hands down, the greatest human being to walk the planet in the 19th century. And today he made his speech downtown at the Capitol, pointing out that the essence of anarchy is secessionism. Secessionism is the essence of anarchy, because once you start smashing away at the modern nation state and subdividing it and partitioning it and balkanizing it and carving it up, you get smaller and smaller units down to the absurd extreme of the individual who thinks he can secede from all political forms. Well, we had that. You can go and look up the status of the imperial knights of the Holy Roman Empire, that is, individuals who were themselves sovereign, at least with a household. And you can read stories from some of these guys telling how awful it was to be an imperial knight, because when you went out to do your plowing, you had to have your suit of armor on, because if somebody came along and wanted to wage war against you, there was nobody to turn to. You were on your own. That is chaos. That is incompatible with any kind of civilization, much less modern civilization. We also want to call your attention to my Twitter feed, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter. Yesterday was a big Twitter day, lots of stuff. Some of the stuff we can go through in today's broadcast, but a lot of material, things moving very fast, Wisconsin, Libya, other parts of the world, related stories. And I'm going to be on, if you're hearing this on Saturday, March 5th, I guess. Yeah, Saturday, March 5th or Sunday, March 6th. If you're in New York City, tune to WHCR. That's Harlem Community Radio. I'm going to be on sometime between 1 and 3 for an hour, half hour or an hour. Harlem Community Radio up there on Manhattan in the Harlem area, but reaching out to the rest of the city. Also, on the 15th of March, I'll be on Maria Heller's fine program where she does a lot of book reviews and related stuff. So tune in to Maria Heller. I was, of course, on Coast to Coast AM this past Tuesday to Wednesday night, and you can find that interview with George Noory, 3 hours worth. You can find that in the media interviews section on Tarpley.net if you can't find it any other way. And, of course, Tarpley.net is the key to keeping up with everything. Tarpley.net, Tarpley.net, and remember the Twitter feed, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter. But now let's get into the rebirth of class struggle, which is in many ways one of the most exciting things. The general situation is that these fanatical, union-busting governors, people like Walker, Kasich, Christie, and others, have essentially goaded the American labor movement into new life after 42 years of ignominious retreat and defeat. it could only really have been done by these reactionaries. Again, they're militant reactionaries. They're verging into fascism. They're fascistoid. They're neo-fascist. Some of them, I guess, by now are fascists. They've gone all the way to Stormtroop Junction. And the leading situation today, of course, is Wisconsin. And here we have Gestapo tactics in the United States, the great citadel of democracy, the city on the hill, the home of exceptionalism. And we've got Gestapo tactics. We've got the governor of Wisconsin saying, first of all, you can't demonstrate in the state capitol there in Madison. He's more authoritarian than these guys in the Middle East that we're supposed to hate. You can't be there, says Scott Walker. He is now sicking his cops. The Wisconsin state troopers have been told, they've been given arrest warrants to carry out on those Democratic senators who have fled the state, which is simply parliamentary obstructionism. It's the equivalent of a filibuster. If you can't have a filibuster, then you can just deny a quorum by not showing up. It's classical parliamentary obstructionism. It's what minorities do in democratic systems. No, says Scott Walker, the tin pot dictator of Wisconsin. He says, I'm sicking my state troopers on you. And sure enough, this morning, a member of the Wisconsin state legislature was tackled around the neck and then brought down, thrown on the floor of the state capitol by the state troopers. Now, these guys have been following orders, and you see how these organizations work. If you've got a tin pot dictator at the top, then unfortunately this infects the rest of them. Scott Walker wants to turn the state troopers of Wisconsin into his anti-union goons. These are Gestapo tactics. This stuff has got to end. I can see a tremendous backlash building up against these methods and, of course, against the content of his methods. In one of the later segments this hour, we're going to go through the very, very encouraging and very important landmark poll. It's an NBC Wall Street Journal poll. What it shows in a nutshell is America is a New Deal nation. This is New Deal America. The heritage of Franklin D. Roosevelt and of the labor struggles of the 1930s is more powerful than the accumulated slime and filth of the Republicans, the Tea Party, the Austrian School, the Chicago Boys, the Koch brothers, and even more powerful than Obama's repeated betrayals. Essentially, we got 20% reactionaries in this country, a hardcore, unfortunate, but there it is. It's amazing it's not more. It's a tiny minority. It's the lunatic fringe of 20% Republicans and Tea Party fanatics. And we've got about 65 to 75% who are essentially congenial to the New Deal. And that is the best news, I think, in a long time. It has tremendous political implications. It's bad news for tin pot dictators like Walker in Wisconsin. So what we have is a kind of general strike or mass strike in Wisconsin, which is now spreading to Ohio, where we have the unfortunate Governor Kasich, who is attempting to smash the unions there. It's the same story, destroy trade union rights. This is all conducted under the Taft-Hartley Act. And one of the things we're demanding is roll back that infamous Taft-Hartley Act. Taft-Hartley Act was saying, hey, GIs, hey, guys who just fought and won World War II, you thought you were fighting for your New Deal economic rights. Guess what? We reactionary Republicans, we Roosevelt haters, we fascist sympathizers, because that's what they were. They were pro-Mussolini, every one of them pro-Hitler. 1947-48, they got control of the Congress, and the Taft-Hartley Act took away the rights that labor had under the Wagner Act. We're going back to the Wagner Act, boys. Let's get ready. We'll be back in a minute.